Hello, Spartans! Recently, a pretty nasty rumor about the future of the new Halo Infinite has appeared on the web. That's why we decided to devote this video to the franchise. Let's remember all of the key moments of the series, and at the end, we'll talk about what's happening right now with the development of Halo Infinite. And let me tell you, there's stuff to talk about. Leave a like, subscribe, and let us begin. In 2001, Microsoft entered the market for home consoles with their Xbox, and the main exclusive and then unpopular for consoles genre, first-person shooter, Halo. Combat Evolved revolutionized, practically created the genre for consoles as we know it today, and paved the way for other shooters from PC. The plot of the game takes place in the far future, 26th century. Humans are actively exploring space, colonizing planets, and finding new life forms, including hostile ones, namely the Covenant, which is basically an alliance of several alien races. As a result of a bloody war with them, several human colonies are destroyed. Due to weaker technological advance, humans are losing one battle after another. The last hope for humanity is the Spartan 2 project, a program for creating superhuman soldiers, which turned out to be the first truly effective weapon against the alien invaders. The story is presented both through use of classic cutscenes as well as through gameplay itself. The main narrator here is Cortana. Also, it's the only game in the series to only have one antagonist. At first, Bungie didn't plan on giving the name Halo Combat Evolved to their creation, and its name was supposed to be just Halo. The subtitle Combat Evolved, which, according to the Bungie development team, they hated, was proposed by Microsoft Game Studios in the middle of the development phase to make its name be a better indication of the game. It's also noticeable because in the main menu of the game, it's simply called Halo. Also, the official soundtrack for the game was also just called Halo. The release of Halo is first of all associated with the release of the Xbox console, which is why it's said that Halo specifically has made Xbox into what it is today, Halo. Combat Evolved became a kind of a killer complement and almost single-handedly allowed the new console to compete with other consoles of its generation, such as PlayStation 2 from Sony and GameCube from Nintendo. In just a short period of time, it immortalized the name of Xbox and saved it from failure. Halo Combat Evolved was sold in total of 6.43 million copies, and in total 26% of the console users have bought the game. The Covenant, enraged by the loss of a valuable weapon, invades the Earth and in just a second wipes New Mombasa, a Kenyan city, off the world map. Master Chief, who was about to get his deserved 15 minutes of glory and a medal to boot, has to take arms once again. Other than expelling the Covenant from Earth, he also has to destroy another killer planet, Delta Halo. In the meanwhile, the Covenant government punishes an ex-general of the Fleet of Particular Justice for failing to save Installation 4. He is stripped of his rank, title, name, and honor and branded by the mark of shame. But in the end of things, he is still made arbiter and dispatched to deal with the rebels hiding on the ruins of Alpha Halo. Two plot lines, chiefs and arbitraries, are tied in a C knot throughout the entirety of the game, and only near the final scene the knot is untied. The heroes will meet face to face, and the new story will dawn, of which we'll learn in Halo 3. Halo 2 gives us an extended choice of vehicles along with other changes in the gameplay compared to its predecessor. In the original Halo, we had separate indicators for health and shield. In Halo 2, we don't see the health indicator anymore, but shields regenerate faster if the player is not taking damage. We can now dual-wield certain types of weapons. However, accuracy goes down as well as we become unable to use grenades in melee combat. New weapons are added. We also can take weapons of allied soldiers, giving ours in exchange. But it must not be the same type. Both sides of the conflict now have new vehicles. Unlike in the first game, human vehicles are now subject to damage just like Covenant vehicles. The player and other characters now have the ability to board any, other than flight, vehicles, either killing or throwing the pilot out of the vehicle. As we said before, Halo 2 was received very warmly. Most of the popular publishers gave it high scores. They remarked on all signs of a cult blockbuster, well-made multiplayer, epic story, and professionally directed cutscenes. On average, the game was rated 9 out of 10. It became the best game of 2004 for Xbox and was also awarded the title of the most discussed game. Halo 3 takes place on Earth, where the forces of the Covenant are now. Master Chief will have to join forces with the Arbitrae and fight the invaders. as well as find several other pieces of the puzzle which will piece together into an epic story. As tradition for the series, the heroes are greeted with large-scale battles, an impressive choice of weapons, which got even bigger in the third game, and the ability to go through the spacious locations on both human and alien vehicles. The game is packed with a number of impressive scenes, including battle with giant bosses and encounters with the hordes of the Flood. Not to mention that the game doesn't take place just on Earth, but also outside. Bungie definitely liked the design of the giant spider-like machines they created, which is why you'll have to face them several times throughout the campaign. These battles take by storm. You'll have to attack the steel monster with everything you have, in hopes that the next shot will finally take it down. Alternatively, you can get in a warthog, gain some speed, and jump inside the monster. Kill everyone inside and destroy the boss from the inside. According to Metacritic, the game averaged an 8 out of 10. Halo 3 turned out to be exactly what it was expected to be. The final game of such a trilogy couldn't have been bad by definition. Simply too much hopes were on its shoulders and too many promises were made. And as typical, Bungie indeed kept most of their promises, and the result was a great, even though not a perfect game, which will be played by millions for years to come. In just a week, the game earned $300 million. Through use of the Xbox Live, the game was played by over 1 million players in the first 2 hours. Halo 3 became the most sold game in the USA in 2007. By January 3, 2008, 8.1 million copies were sold. The game was very well received by critics, namely for its strong multiplayer mode and the Forge mode. The game became the most discussed Xbox game of 2007 and appeared in the top 5 best games of 2007. Halo 4 is 4 important pieces: a new studio, an old hero, Hollywood staging, and a new huge step for the series as a whole. At the end of Halo 3, 2 main heroes, the favorite of American teens, Master Chief, and his cybernetic girlfriend Cortana, an AI stored in a portable flash drive, hide in a cryotube on the Forward Unto Dawn spaceship. Chief falls into cryosleep for a long 4 years, and Cortana is sending signals for help into space. The calls to save the inseparable couple from the drifting ship are answered by the gigantic frigate Infinity, boarded by the best minds of humanity, but Forward Unto Dawn very untimely gets into a gravity well and ends up on the planet Requiem along with a flotilla of aliens. From this moment, the events unfold in the most dramatic way for all of the Halo fans. On the Forbidden Planet, we find out that other than the humans and the Covenant, the alliance of the hostile alien races, the universe holds another race, the Forerunners, also known as Prometheans. Thereby, the conflict is joined by a third side that hates both humans and the Covenant. It is ruled by Didact, the most colorful antagonist in the history of the entire series. Talking about additional details is compared to massive spoilers, so we can only give you a hint. Humans took a powerful artifact from the Prometheans, and Didact will do everything in his power to take it back. Gameplay doesn't give us much new. Everything is very familiar from Halo 3 and Halo ODST. Chief goes through fairly linear locations and mows through enemies using their own weaponry. Even though the gameplay is slightly linear, the developers were still able to fill it with a sense of measure and taste. Sometimes combat takes place in quite spacious locations, and we have space for all kinds of different tactical decisions. In addition, on our way to Didact, we often find different vehicles, each of which brings special enjoyment from piloting it. Halo 4, one of the most successful projects of 2012. Just in one day, this quadruple earned over $220 million. The fourth game became the main shooter of the Xbox 360 in just a single moment, the top of the genre, and showed everyone that even tetralogies can be successful. The average score of the PC version of the game was 8.5 out of 10. The events of Halo 5 unfold after just a couple months after the finale of the last game. Due to particular reasons, Master Chief ignores instructions of the UNSC and journeys in search of one notorious character. The authorities are worried by what's happening and send a Spartan Locke to go after Chief. In that regard, the story isn't exactly linear. We are told 2 stories. One is dedicated to the Blue Team, led by Chief, and another to the Osiris Fire Team, led by Locke. Such a plot device allows us to see the same events from different angles. Even so, both heroes will have to go through similar problems, destroying hordes of the Covenants and Prometheans. Not everything is smooth in the story, and the motives of some acting figures cause questions. The story unfolds quite slowly and sluggishly, and yet the events stay interesting since humanity is facing a new threat, which appears from a pretty unexpected source. Unfortunately, the most interesting events only begin nearing the end. We are unable to fight the new evil just yet that our heroes will do in the next game. Improvements, features, innovations. We'll have to control 2 protagonists, and mostly we'll have to play as Locke. However, it doesn't affect the gameplay at all. In both cases, we have the same Spartan tools, self-regenerating armor, and a couple grenades. The costumes of the Covenant fighters are also given some new abilities. For example, we are now able to perform a crushing blow to the ground when we drop from high places, or climb a ledge that we can't reach with a normal jump. The new features came just in handy, as most battle locations are very fast and have an open structure. We also have more space for vertical gameplay. There's almost no boring corridor encounters in the game. We'll always have to jump on all kinds of platforms, climb ledges, look for ways around, and attack enemies from behind. All of this makes the gameplay more dynamic and tactical, and the combat itself looks global. Game publishers noted such achievements as improved gameplay mechanics, deep level design, vast amount of cool guns, great multiplayer modes. Total score of the game, 7 out of 10. Halo Infinite. Let's get to the news, which are unfortunately not the best. Halo Infinite could be postponed to 2022, and the Xbox One release could be canceled altogether. Thing is, 343 industries are giving their all to achieve a good resolution on Xbox One S. Yet, the project can't even get close to 1080p, with it being unable to even reach 900p, as well as having serious issues with loading assets. As a solution, a deep optimization of the engine was proposed. For example, the developers plan on implementing ray tracing by default, optimizing geometry of the models, and optimizing post-processing. In the event that the developer is unable to do this, in question is a release only for Xbox Series X. At the same time, earlier Microsoft stated that all exclusive games in the nearest years will be released on both the current generation as well as next gen. According to the source, the developers are trying to make the best Halo in history, but so far it's an absolute mess with terrible optimization solutions, which affects the end result as well as the state of the project in general. Spartans, what are your thoughts on the matter? Will we see a new Halo in 2021? Leave a comment. Our video comes to an end. We will greatly appreciate your support through likes and subs. And for the coolest fans, we have a Patreon. You can find a link below. Be well, have a good one, and only play good games. Goodbye!